Former Acting Chief Cultural Officer Jacinta David passed away on Wednesday, November 22nd, but Dominica will not forget her contribution to culture and the island on a whole. On Thursday, GIS News spoke to the current Chief Cultural Officer, Mr. Raymond Lawrence, on Miss David's life and legacy.
Well, I have known Jacinta David for a very long time, from since she was quite young. I would like to believe I am the one really who sort of introduced her into the field of arts and culture, because her three sisters used to dance with me in the 1970s when Whitey Kubuli was quite young, and she was the only one who wasn't a member at the time. And I remember going to her home and always trying to encourage her to join. She was very shy, I thought at the time, very reserved, until finally she decided to join the group. And she started to dance and became one of our lead dancers. And I just thought that she developed quite a love for dance and for the arts from that time. And then she went on to study dance in Jamaica, and then she went on to do a degree in dance in New York, and returned to Dominica and joined the staff. So she's been with the Cultural Division for several years. In between the time that she was here, she went off to Tortola for 2 years with the Department of Culture there. Then at a certain point she went to the drug awareness program at government headquarters for about 2 years as well, and then she went off at a certain time to Dexia as Cultural Industries Officer for about 2 years, but would always return to Cultural Division. She started her own children's dance group, the Performing Arts Workshop, and she also organized the Tea Matador, the annual Tea Matador competition forming part of Independence celebrations. So she was a very important staff member, of course, of the Cultural Division, she had a sort of a tenacity, a type of determination to try to achieve her goals, which was a good quality about her. And up to this year, she traveled with the Dominica delegation to Barbados. When I returned as chief, she went off with the delegation to Barbados for Carrier Festa this year.
And what do you remember most about her in her role as Acting Chief Cultural Officer?
Well, I was out at the time, of course, I was retired, but in a sense, to take on a job like that, you know, it's a challenge, because with culture and the work of the Cultural Division, there's a lot involved. So I admire her spirit and approach to taking on the major responsibility, you know, of having to act as Chief Cultural Officer. Of course, you always have a supporting staff, so of course that helps as well. Yeah, so I think that's what I sort of remember, that she was courageous enough to take on the responsibility of acting Chief Cultural Officer at the time. We have a lot of major festivals that we do, we have a lot of major events, we do training across the island, we do research and documentation, we do cultural exchanges, so there's a lot of work involved. I think that was a plus for her in having to take on the role of acting Chief Cultural Officer.
And I know that her involvement, as you said, in cultural dance was one that was so extensive, and she touched a lot of young people's life in her role as a dance mentor and a person who was at the forefront of culture, I would say.
Yes, because I mentioned the history of the dance. She was always involved in dance. That was her forte. And she had her own children's dance group. And on behalf of the division now, she would try to implement training programs in other things, of course, but in dance as well. So we are certainly going to miss her in the Cultural Division, for one, and miss her generally in the field of culture in Dominica, because she had already made a significant contribution, and she was still young enough to have made even more contributions, you know. But God is the one who has all the answers to our questions. We don't know why things happen the way they do. We don't understand it. So we just have to leave everything in his hands.
Definitely. Okay. Finally, Mr. Lawrence, do you feel like her legacy is one that will certainly be remembered for generations to come in Dominica?
Yes, there are many, many people who've made significant contributions to culture in Dominica, and she's one of them. She was able to do it for a number of years, especially, I would say, the Team Matador, which was her sort of own creation and was a successful event. And then she had her own little dance group of children. She was able to help to promote dance in Dominica and was able to make a contribution to cultural development through the cultural division and at other institutions as well. So all in all, I think she will be remembered for the contributions which she made.
Definitely. And I just want to say that we all express our deepest sympathy to you as well as the cultural division.
Yes, thank you very much.